Seven Sisters series, the last book in the series that you have written, Harry.
Yeah, yes, indeed.
First of all, I'm so sorry. I'm guessing we're all so sorry for your loss because, of course, we lost a writer, but you lost a mom.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Yeah, but Atlas is a celebration.
Yes.
You know, it's amazing that you've all come here today. You know, I feel genuinely honoured, and Mum would as well. She would consider it such a privilege that you're here. And at the end of the day, Atlas is a party and a celebration. The fact that this amazing decades worth of mystery and story is being wrapped up, and it's here and it exists against all the odds. So it really is a celebration. So yes, it's so tragic and sad that she's not here to celebrate her amazing work, but we continue her legacy and we honour it.
When did she ask you to finish the book? Or did she?
Yes, so Mum had been very poorly for 4 years. She was diagnosed with cancer in 2017. And during her illness, there were some really tough times. She was very, very sick on a number of occasions. However, Mum she always had a little bit of magic about her. And that meant that whenever she got really sick, out of nowhere, against the expectations of doctors and the laws of nature, she would bounce back and fully recover. And we just assumed that pattern would continue forever and ever.
Yeah, because then she wrote like almost all of the books.
Yeah, during her illness, she wrote 5 books, which is unreal, unbelievable. That shows the huge mental capacity that she had and the strength that she had. During this time, you know, Mum and I, we were best friends. It's a cliche to say, but we really were. And during that time, we decided we're going to write a series of children's books together, the Guardian Angel series. So we'd worked together on those, and it had been such a joyous experience because it turns out writing, who knew, is a really lonely profession. And when you get to do it with someone else, particularly your best friend, it's just wonderful. It's great. We only had one big falling out during the Guardian Angel series where she threw something at me. But apart from that, it was great. And because of that, because of our relationship that we'd always had, and I think particularly since working on the Guardian Angels series together, Christmas 2018, she had gone through a period of very bad illness. She was really sick at that time. And she said, listen, if the worst happens, I want you to finish the Seven Sisters series. And for 5 hours that whole afternoon, we discussed it and how that might work. And after that 5-hour discussion, which will always remain private, we never talked about it again because we knew that the plan was in place. We knew what would happen. If Mum died, we knew I was there to complete the series. But we both had to believe, and both did believe, that she would live and fulfill her legacy. And that was the situation. It didn't need discussing more than once.
And how did you start the process of working on Atlas?
There was a big difference, I think, between knowing that Mum had asked me to finish the series and actually bloody doing it. My God. It's indescribable. I mean...
Is that scary?
Yeah, it was terrifying. I mean, think about it.
It still is, I guess, because it's not out.
It's not out yet. It might be terrible. But 50 million readers have read the Seven Sisters series. It's a decade worth of mysteries. People around the world have invested so much time in these books. There was so much pressure on me that in a way there was no pressure at all. Because if you thought about it for more than 1 second, your head would explode and you'd want to curl in a ball and cry. So I never thought about it. I just was doing this for my mum. It was a final task for my best friend and my hero, and she would do the same for me. So I was writing this book for one person, as lovely as you all are. I was writing this book for one person, and it's my mum, Lucinda Riley. And in that way, it's been a privilege and a joy. Yes, it was impossibly difficult. You yourselves know that there are a lot of mysteries to wrap up. And the important thing was to do it in a way that was logical and made sense, and that was the real challenge, and I really hope that it's paid off. the mixture of my ideas and Mum's ideas and how she saw it ending a long time ago and how it has developed since then. The way I physically wrote the thing was... So this book is published on the 11th of May, a month today, around the world on the same day. Now, that just never happens in publishing. It is just impossible to do. You've got to think of the likes of, you know, the last Harry Potter novel was the sort of similar thing happened there. So I knew there was this global deadline, and there was no question that the book had to be submitted at the start of October, otherwise it wasn't going to happen. And I forced myself to write 10 pages per day, which is 3,000 words. Now, no one should have to write like that, because it's very, very difficult. I was also touring with my improv comedy show, which I have in the UK at the time, which meant that this book was being written on trains and in terrible hotel rooms. And some days you would find yourself with only 2 pages of good manuscript. But some days you'd find yourself with 10 pages and then you'd write an 11th and a 12th. And it would flow like wine. And in that way, the first draft got written.
Do we know where it's set? Which country?
With what? That was a very subtle question. You would have got away with it if you were like, which country? I don't think, with 1 month to go, it's not a spoiler to say that this book very heavily references, in fact, is intertwined with the first 7 books. And dedicated readers in this room will know that Pa Salt appears secretly somewhere in every novel. So it's fair to say, wherever he appears, that is where we're going to go. I'll say no more than that, apart from the fact that there is one country which is featured heavily in Atlas, which we have not been to before in the world of the Seven Sisters. And I can't say any more than that because I will start giving things away.
So can you say who's your favourite character?
Character?
Yeah.
In the whole...
Who do you have the most in common?
So normally people ask, obviously, who's your favourite sister? And I always used to laugh when Mum would answer that question because she would say, oh, I can't possibly answer that question. They're like my children. I can't pick a favourite. And I really feel exactly the same now. My favourite sister, very quickly, Tiggy. She's the most spiritual. I see a lot of my mum in her. I don't think it was a conscious thing when Mum was writing the character, but there is a lot of Lucinda Riley in Tiggy, which is nice. And she's very important in Atlas. In terms of my favourite character, I wish I could name someone from this book, this fake book, but I can't because it would give away a spoiler. So I will say Orlando is my favourite character. He's sort of charming and quirky and weird and funny. And occasionally Mum used to say, oh, I sort of base him a bit off you. And I'd go, I'm not really sure that's a compliment, Mum. So I would say Orlando.
Okay.
And also Professor Paul Landowski, who is the sculptor behind Christ the Redeemer, who is featured very heavily in the first novel.
Okay. Is that a spoiler alert?
What?
Is there anybody that wants to ask Harry anything about this book or the writing or the becoming of this book? Is there anybody that has like, yes? Yes.
Hello.
Did your mum write any of it, or is it, have you written full manuscript?
So what happened with Atlas is that in 2016, Mum was being courted by a Hollywood production company who wanted to buy the rights to the Seven Sisters. And this meant that in 2016, she was flown to Hollywood, and the production company basically said, if you want the deal, you've got to tell us how you think the Seven Sisters series is going to end. Now, she'd only written 2 books at that point. She was in the process of writing the 3rd, and she was like, oh, I don't bloody know how this thing's going to end. I don't have a clue. Well, you know, she had a vague idea. But this process forced her to go into a room on an afternoon and write an ending of sorts in terms of where she saw the story eventually heading down the line. And this took the form of 30 pages of script dialogue between 2 characters, which I can't talk about. But those 30 pages of script dialogue provided me with a wonderful guiding light to follow. That coupled with the fact that Pa SALT cameos in every book, and obviously I know exactly where he is, and Mum kept a timeline of his movements. So Mum got more down on paper than she ever gave herself credit for. And you know, the joyous thing about Atlas, I think, is that it can be whatever you want it to be. If you want to imagine that Lucinda Riley wrote this and I added some commas, that's absolutely fine. If you want to imagine that we wrote it together, that's absolutely fine. If you want to imagine that I wrote it from some notes assembled by Mum and some conversations that we had, that's fine too. The only place it matters is in your head, because at the end of the day, the story is the story, and you'll find out what happens.
Yes? You behind there?
If you hadn't had your mom's guidelines, would you have written it very differently?
Great question. Yes, it would have been set on the International Space Station. It would have been a sci-fi epic. Yeah, totally. Well, I'll be honest with you, I don't think... If I hadn't have had any contribution from Mum, I don't think I would have written it. I don't think it would have been right to produce something that was not from her brain in any way. It wouldn't have been right. So, great question, and I think the answer is I wouldn't have attempted it, no.
Any other questions? Yes?
Is there going to be a ninth book of the series? Or is this the end?
This I can honestly say, this absolutely 100% truly is the end. I mean, I know Mum surprised everyone by saying, oh, there's an 8th book! And it was interesting to watch 50% of the readers go, yay! And 50% of the readers go, what? But there is no 9th book. You will get all the answers in this. The final page is the final page of the Seven Sisters story. I'm not saying that it's necessarily the end of the Seven Sisters universe, whether that is on the page or on the screen. But this is it. This is it. 8 books and done.
So, does anybody, we're kind of closing up on the interview, does anybody have any questions, last questions they want to ask?
No one has asked if...
Yeah, so you mentioned a little bit that there's additional books coming, and actually on Thursday, Clubhouse, Flower.
Oh, that is really good.
Oh, you already?
Yeah, in English I read it.
Yeah, is there any series coming, or will it be individual books coming from her?
So I'm not entirely sure. So is Hot House Flower is about to be published in...
It's really good.
Is that about to
Really?
be... Is that about to be published in Denmark?
Yeah.
Apparently.
Oh, okay. Well, fantastic. Yeah, so the good news is I think Denmark, they weren't initially so quick to jump aboard the Lucinda Riley train. What a weird metaphor that is. Which means that obviously there are individual novels that she wrote in 2010 to 2021 to be released. There are definitely no more series coming. Seven Sisters is the only series she ever wrote.
Yeah.
Is there going to be a television series?
You have no idea how much I wish I could just tell you everything about the television series. But I can't, because...
Maybe.
Listen, here's the thing. It's coming. It is coming. And there will be an announcement about it soon. And when you find out who it is that is making the television series, you'll realise why I am so scared about talking about it. Part of the agreement we have with them is they get to announce it. We are working towards, and I'm pretty confident we'll get there now, an announcement the week of the 11th of May when the book is published. So fingers crossed, but it's definitely, you know, nothing is 100% sure in television, but it's 99.9% sure it's coming, and I'm really, really excited about it. The people that are making it couldn't be more perfect. The writer that's writing it couldn't be more perfect. And yeah, everyone should be excited about it.
Nice. Yeah.
Oh, good, yeah.
Congratulations.